The Acolyte, y'all, we covered it here. It was a struggle. Y'all know I'm not gonna lie about that, but the Acolyte, I was super excited. This was the one Star Wars show I was like, yo, I can't wait. You told me it's Kill Bill meets Frozen. You hyped up this big old mystery. It's the rise of the Sith and all this good stuff. Boy, I was sitting there like, give me some of that Acolyte. And then they gave me some of that Acolyte. And I was like, what are we doing? What is this? It just didn't work. Right. So either way, the Acolyte season 1, it got canceled. Right. They canceled the Acolyte. And even though they canceled it, in my last video, I think I tried to make the case that maybe, just maybe, the show deserves a second chance, right? Because at the end of the day, you still put out a show that asked a lot of questions. It opened up a lot of possibilities, and I feel as though in the effort not to waste our time, you might as well give the show a second chance. But you're gonna have to change up the showrunner. You're gonna have to change up the writer. You're gonna have to bring a new team in there. You have to do that. That's not unheard of. We've seen movie franchises like Thor have bad stuff, and then all of a sudden a new director, boom, we're back on board, right? In Thor Ragnarok. TV shows can have the same thing, bad season, but a good season with a good writer, everything can change. So I'm still okay with the idea knowing that season 1 was not a winner, had some good moments, great lightsaber fight scenes, and Manny, who played the Sith guy, like great, but the story overall just did not work. I think you could still salvage it that way. But we have the main star of the show, Amandla Stenberg, and she said a couple things in a very lengthy video on I believe it was on her Instagram. And she commented on the cancellation of the show. So let's kind of go through some of the things that she said here about this and give some thoughts on it. She says, I'm going to be transparent and say that it's not a huge shock for me. Of course, I was in the bubble of my own reality, but for those who weren't aware, there's been a rampage of vitriol that we faced since the show was even announced, when it was still just a concept and no one had even seen it. And that's when we started experiencing a rampage of, I would say, hyper conservative bigotry and vitriol, prejudice, hatred, and hateful language towards us. And this really affected me when I first got the job, because it's not something you can fully understand what it feels like until it's happening to you. Oh my goodness. Does this or does this not sound so familiar? Stop me if you've heard this before. Minority actor in Star Wars faces negativity online. Ahmad Best. Old girl that played Rose. I forget her name. I'm sorry. Amandla, Moses Ingram. Like, and it's not just them. Like, even the little kid that played Luke or whatever, like that happened. John Boyega. Like, this is a recurring theme. It's a recurring theme with online fandom, specifically with Star Wars, just so happening to find issues when it comes to minorities in Star Wars projects. Now, does that mean every minority? No. They don't have a problem with the background, minority characters. Like, I need to point that out to people. Y'all don't have a problem with the ones that know their place and say a couple lines here and there and give you partial representation. Y'all don't have a problem. Some people don't have a problem with that. Now, I'm trying to be specific with my words, because I noticed that a lot of these people that have issues mince up words. I'm not saying every single Star Wars fan has this issue. I'm saying the ones that do have this issue have that issue. Okay? So it's not everybody. It's not only a certain group. I'm saying the people that go out of their way to point at wokeism, women, minorities, sexual orientations, y'all that use that as the lead of your criticism, that's the people we're talking about. Now, she was absolutely right that before this show came out, you already started to see some of the vitriol poke its rear head, its ugly head online. You already started to see people say, oh my gosh, it's woke. Oh my gosh, they got witches. Oh my gosh, the witches are together and the ladies, like as if we didn't know witches and women are the same thing in these type of stories. Like, what are y'all talking about? Anyway, she was right. She was right about the hyper conservative, channels that were bolstering this stuff and bolstering the attacks. And a lot of it was unwarranted. Now, let me be clear. Attacking a show before you've seen it is unwarranted, especially if you don't know the context, right? Now, obviously, there are moments where something will portray itself one way, and that can be enough to turn people off. I'll give you an example, like the Good Times, right? The Good Times animated show. They showed us everything that we did not need to see. They showed us black folks that was extra ghetto, making stupid jokes and all that. It was like, okay, we don't need to see this. And we didn't. And Netflix buried it. But for this show, nobody knew anything. All we saw was some lightsabers. We saw a girl doing ninja moves. And that's it. That's all we had to go off of. And some people was like, that's enough to hate this. Not warranted. Now it's different once we get into the actual show. Okay, now you can have some criticism. That's very different. Very different. She goes on here. And I'll go here. It says here Steinberg finished by talking about what they felt drove some of the divisiveness that impacted the Acolyte, chalking it up to echo chambers of thought and algorithms that reinforce our biases. They challenged viewers to continue questioning what it is they watch and to think critically about what shapes it. I will absolutely agree with that 1000%. I cannot tell you how many times I've interacted with Star Wars fans who will quote to me or point me in the direction of other popular YouTubers that just so happen to all talk about and think the same way. And for whatever reason, these Star Wars fans can't even realize that they are stuck in an echo chamber and that they're only listening to one side of the argument. And that, yes, you might agree with them, but you're still stuck in the echo chamber of confirmation bias. So what a lot of people don't understand nowadays, and I like the fact that she said you need to think critically, is that whether it's politics, whether it's, entertainment, social media is only going to give back to you what you give it. If you keep on clicking on kittens playing with yarn balls, you don't think your timeline is going to be full of kittens playing with yarn balls? Same way, if all you do is watch videos of people hating on certain things of Star Wars, you don't think the algorithm's going to say, hey, we noticed you like hating on Star Wars. Here's some more. That's how it works. You have to realize at some point, whatever it is you're consuming, if it sounds too much alike, if it sounds too similar, maybe you're stuck in an echo chamber. And I encourage this for people even with political stuff. Personally, I watch all the news outlets. I have my own opinions, of course, but I watch the conservative stuff and I watch the far left stuff because I like to know there's something in the middle that both of y'all are missing. And I want to see them both. Same thing here with entertainment. If you're watching, somebody that's pro this, watch somebody that's not, just so you can get a flavor, just so that you're not stuck. Because that's clearly what happened with a lot of these fans that watched the Acolyte and tore this thing to pieces. And this is my biggest issue, and I'll wrap with this. The biggest problem that I have, and I totally agree with Amandla here, The biggest problem I have is the fact that because you had all these pre-haters, it blurs the criticism and it blurs the lines of people with actual criticisms. Because what I don't like about this now is the fact that because all those pre-haters were so loud, they didn't give this show the opportunity to just fail on its own. Y'all could have just been quiet and y'all could have just let this show fail on its own. And then later on, you could have been like, okay, hey, maybe I told you so, whatever. But the problem is now people can't figure out or identify that maybe the show actually did have problems. I highly doubt someone like Amandla now is going to look at the show and be like, you know what? Maybe there was a pacing issue. You know what? Maybe the characters didn't develop all that well. Oh, you know what? Maybe this part wasn't effectively shot. All of the legit criticisms are A, going to be thrown away and disregarded by the pre-haters, or B, they're not even going to be listened to because the people closest to the projects are going to just assume, well, if you didn't like the show, you probably were with these other haters as well. I don't like that. This is why I don't like people criticizing things ahead of time like that. I wish people would have just watched the show. And if you don't like it, that's cool. Talk about what in the show you don't like and then just move on. Let the show fail on its own. Rings of Power. We were just talking about Rings of Power. I can't tell you if the second season is good or not, but I can tell you the viewing numbers are down. That's a red flag. That's a problem. If that continues, that lets people know, and the studio, maybe you just don't have a good product. But imagine if a lot of people were, well, they were pre-hating on Rings of Power. How can you have a black elf? Elves can't be black. What is this? Well, now are they really going to take the time to figure out, man, maybe the writing wasn't good. Man, maybe the acting wasn't good. You're not if you're going to have all that pre-hating be so loud. So y'all got to chill on that stuff, man. Let things fail on their own. If it's bad, people will stop watching. If people stop watching, the shows will cancel themselves. They just won't go nowhere. We don't need y'all certain YouTube channels and certain loud people on Twitter or whatever. We don't need y'all to be voicing. I'm not saying you shouldn't. You have the right to say what you want to say. I'm saying we don't need it. Because if a show is bad, it'll die on its own. Anyway, that's all I got for that Acolyte situation. Y'all let me know, how did you feel about Amandla's response? How did you feel about what she had to say? Was she right? Did you agree with her? Did you disagree with her? Whatever you thought, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. This was just a segment of one of my live chats, and if you're interested in joining in on the next one, be sure to subscribe and turn on your notifications for more. I've got more videos and reviews to do for you all, and until next time, I'll see you all later.